Welcome to Sourcecraft Cocktails Pro Tips. Today I'm going to be teaching you about the major flavor components of a craft cocktail. So when making a craft cocktail, there's different components that you can use depending on whether you're making a spirit-forward cocktail or a citrus-based cocktail. With a spirit-forward style cocktail, let's say it's like an old-fashioned or Negroni, the components that you're going to use in something like that are going to be your spirit, some type of sweetener, it could be sugar, vermouth, and then bitters. And that's going to be true for either an old-fashioned or Negroni. So let's go through an old-fashioned, for example. So with an old-fashioned, we're using 2 heavy parts of spirit. And then from there, with our sugar content, we're gonna add about anywhere from a 1/4 ounce to a 1/2 ounce of sugar, depending on what the sugar is. Is that sugar super sweet, like a Demerara? Then we wanna use less. If we're using something like a simple syrup that is thinner and not as sweet, we're gonna use something closer to a 1/2 ounce. Then we want bitters. So your most typical bitters used in Old Fashioned are gonna be Angostura. These bitters have been around forever and you can find them anywhere. They're known as aromatic bitters. So you're gonna add about 3 to 4 dashes of those and it's gonna completely change the whole complexity of that cocktail. So let's go back to the Negroni now. So with a Negroni, we're using 1 part of a spirit. From there, we're gonna use 1 part sweetener, which would be our sweet vermouth in this instance. And then from there, we're gonna have 1 part Campari, which would be our bitter component in that cocktail. So those are your 3 main components that are gonna be in any spirit-forward cocktail. Spirit, sweetener, and then your bitterness. So that's the trilogy, the holy trilogy that we call, of a spirit-forward cocktail. Now let's go into what the trilogy is for a citrus-based cocktail. For example, let's take a sour, any sour style cocktail. You're gonna have your base spirit, which typically is gonna be somewhere around 1.5 parts, 1.5 ounces. And then from there, you want a sweetening component. Your simple syrup, here we've got a raspberry syrup, velvet falernum, which is used in a lot of tiki cocktails. And then from there, you want your citrus. Lemon, grapefruit, lime. Lemon and lime are gonna be your 2 most common citrus bases, and then sometimes you'll throw grapefruit in there depending on the flavors that you're going for. But typically in a regular sour, you're gonna go with 3/4 ounces of your sweetener, 3/4 ounces of your acidity. Again, depending on the cocktail, you could change that up, a 1/4 ounce or so. And that's for you to play with. We have these bases that were kind of built, these mother cocktails, if you will, but you can play with at home and try to use different ratios and different liqueurs, different bitters to change up those flavors of cocktails. And feel free to add bitters into your citrus-based cocktails. It's gonna completely change your cocktail and the flavors in that cocktail. Play with flavor.